Mr. Giblett.
Good evening, everybody, but morning if you're in Australia, I guess. Welcome to Spin Legal this evening. This is episode 104 with Angela and myself, and tonight we're discussing... No, we're not discussing that topic. We're discussing something entirely different.
Oh, you forgot to change that. And also add a number because we're another episode later.
No, that's the correct number. I've already changed the correct number. I just this
Titling of the episodes.
Yeah, it's not that got, it's this that didn't. So now I say this, and it says the right thing. Episode 104, which is correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're February 10th, episode 104, and this is in Spin Legal with myself, Peter Giblett, and yourself, Angela Browne. So welcome to Spin Legal. Slightly different format, though. You know, notice that we are a bit narrower. You got to breathe in when you do this show now.
Yep.
Right? Well, it's a case of that or this.
It was scared that we'll scare the coyotes away anyway.
But or we could do this, right? But I think this, you know, you've got to slim out. We got to slim up a bit, right?
Yeah, we both got to lose weight.
Yeah. Okay, so just a quick news flash for everybody. Canada is in 10th place on the Olympic medal table. We've got one silver, two bronze. But at least think about this. We're well up on Great Britain, which is in dead last place with 0 medals. So just wanted to let everybody know that. You know,
how's Russia doing?
Russia, I don't know. They're not in the Olympics, are they anymore? They've been excluded.
Oh, good.
But I can tell you that that Britain, Chile, Brazil, Cyprus, Denmark, Ecuador, Eritrea, Estonia, Finland, Georgia are all tied in last place.
Oh, yes.
And a whole heap of other nations. Right?
And the U.S. probably.
No, U.S. is about 4th or 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Their penchant for getting gold medals, remains even in the Winter Olympics. Okay, so if you need to contact Invictus Legal for anything, you can do so on 905-688-5598. Email Angela through angela@weareinvictus.legal or myself through peter@weareinvictus.legal, and you can visit our website as ever on weareinvictus.legal.
Yep.
Okay. What we're doing today is rights of a parent in the workplace, and given I already wasted 3 minutes and 6 seconds by mucking up on the header.
Yeah, we've lost all our audience. They're done. They're gone.
Yeah. Okay. So when it comes down to the workplace, there's a lot of issues around parenting in the workplace, none the least because, what's one of the biggest challenges about the workplace? Well, first of all, you've got things like pregnancy. You've got things like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go home because my child's just been sent home from school. Or
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's other issues. My child's sick and they can't go to daycare.
Yep.
Things like that.
Yeah. And actually that causes another potential issue, which is my child's sick and can't go to daycare. But it's not just about your child being sick and going to daycare. It's that now you're sick. Well, now you're sick.
Yeah. Now you have to take your sick days or a vacation day, so you can be home with your child. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of issues with the rights of parents in the workplace, and there's also some human rights basis, human rights claims as well in relation to families. Yeah. families and workplace. One of the key factors is there's a duty to accommodate. So employers need to adjust their policies, practices, and/or schedules in order to accommodate parents. Now,
Yep.
interesting thing is traditionally, it's like, well, okay, traditionally, I used to work away. Wasn't really, I'd sort of work till 6 or 7 at night. Used to work away or something like that, or travel back from the workplace to home. So these kind of things didn't really apply to a lot of men that were working in the workplace. More a thing that was available to women. But realistically, it applies to men as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Some men are single fathers.
Yeah.
Okay. Or they may have chosen to take more responsibility for the children while the wife is at work.
That's always a possibility. And when you think about it, there's wives nowadays who earn a lot more than men do.
Yeah.
Right. So that's an important aspect, and one has to consider it. And obviously, it doesn't impact. If you're both rushing home, I think if you're both rushing home to deal with children, to accommodate children, the other possibility is that it's like, hey, I'll do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week. You do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there could be a way of
if that were in a family situation. It's like, so a husband and wife could do alternate home early times. And the other question, of course, is that what happens to things like, they need to go to childcare first thing in the morning, and okay, so I can see a lot of employers taking objection to this, but my shop opens at 7:55 in the morning.
Mm-hmm. A lot of them do that, and there needs to be some accommodation. If you have a parent, you have to look at that, and they need to make accommodations. The duty to accommodate is, are you able to work in the workplace with any necessary accommodations? Right? And you say yes, because the necessary accommodations have to be made. It's under the Human Rights Code of Ontario.
Yeah.
So if you have an employer, like I've had a couple of times, I've had staff that had small children at home, and they were taken to daycare, and there were situations where they were either late to come into work because things happened getting them into daycare, or they had to go home because the child was sick, or they had to leave at a specific time, because daycares are notorious where if your child is late, then by the minute they start charging you after that.
Well, I was just thinking of a scenario as you were talking about that. Say, for example, you're a new employee, and I somehow let slip out about how you've got a lovely 3-year-old, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, 3-year-old turns into 4-year-old. Maybe I won't employ this young lady, because she's going to have a 5-year-old very soon who's going to be knocking in, going to school.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's going to be my biggest pain in the ass employee, because she's always wanting time off for school and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, this is where you have to look at it. There's a reasonable accommodations. Okay? They have to make reasonable accommodations. Like, if you have to allow the person to come in a little bit late because they had to drop their child off at daycare, or to leave a bit early to pick them up, depending on where your workplace is relative to the person's daycare.
But I already told you, we open the shop at 7:55. No,
Yeah,
then you can go anything in the world.
7:55, and they'll be there at 8:30. After they drop off the child, or they could drop off. There are daycares that start at 7.
Yeah.
Right, depending on where. See, what happens is when you choose a daycare, you'd be looking for something that would accommodate your hours, and most of them try to accommodate common working hours.
Well, I'm of course being Mr. Awkward here in this situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm not trying to be. I'm trying to actually demonstrate how the potential for problems down the line. Okay,
Yeah.
so we've got some anti-discrimination rules that need to be considered as well, because employees cannot be fired, demoted, or face negative repercussions because they need to fulfill caregiving responsibilities.
Yeah. And it even becomes more so if the child has, say, a severe disability or special needs.
Okay.
Okay. There needs to be some flexibility in terms of the work time.
And I'm
Okay.
thinking to
Some
myself,
of them try to, some employers, like where it's possible, some employers try to accommodate them by allowing the parent to work at home for periods of time. Like, say, if they're during the summer or something like that, when the child is at home, they can maybe work at home during the summertime and then go back to work and part-time hours, depending on how your shop is set up, what your requirements are, and the type of work you do. And also another way of doing is to adjust that person's hours in accordance to what they need in terms of coming into work.
it does occur to me that there's many examples like this whereby somebody's going to utilize this as an opportunity. So again, I'll go back to the interviewing you. I'm interviewing you, and somehow in the conversation, we swap stories about you having a lovely 8-year-old, and
Mm-hmm.
how 8-year-olds turn into lovely 9-year-olds,
Yeah.
and eventually then I use that as an opportunity. Damn, she's got kids, and I know how problematic my kids were at that age. Damn, I don't want to employ her, so it might be an opportunity not to employ, of course.
Yeah. And there would have to be some evidence, like particularly if you're saying that, like if you're, especially if you're looking at someone saying, well, we'd like to have someone who could be on call at any time or all hours, or requiring people to work night shifts, that sort of thing.
Mm.
Some parents can't work night shifts because they have to be up in the morning to look after their children.
Well, I was actually wondering, sometimes a night shift may actually be a better opportunity if you're working, let's say 10 till 4 or something like that, 10 p.m. till 4 p.m. or
Yeah,
something.
well, if there's another parent at home that can look after the children during the day, it might not be too bad,
Yeah.
because in that way you don't have to take 24-hour wake periods.
Yeah. Well,
I know I've had that when I've had both of my kids. I had lots of 24-hour days and where I've had to look after them.
well, 24-hour days and kids when they're young is
And
definitely
they're
a
babies, and I breastfed them. I took them everywhere. Took them everywhere. And also breastfeeding on the job. I mean, if this is something, there's different things that you can do. Like if the workplace is amenable to it, like if a person can go back to a back office or something and they can breastfeed, that can be done.
well,
Hey, but if you're like a teller at a bank or something, you go like that.
you can't exactly hand the cash out from home, can you?
No, hey, you
One
have to
for
be.
you, one for me.
Yeah.
One for you, one for me.
One for you, 19 for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tax
It
man.
doesn't really, home telling doesn't work, does it?
Nope, it hasn't. My
Yeah.
image is getting blurred.
And at the end of the day, I guess a lot of that actually depends upon the type of job that you've got. But and again, okay, so if you're a bank teller, that actually brings up some very interesting questions, because if you are a teller and you've got limited in working a job like that, and you've got limited time when you can go home, obviously one of the questions there would be, you can't just dash off because you've got a child that's sick.
Yeah, and that's something that needs to be looked after. Probably what they would do is sometimes I actually did this in one of the jobs I had where I was looking after one person who was in senior management and another person also in senior management, but she was a step below her. And they entered into a job sharing agreement
Okay.
because one of them had some children at home, and the other one wanted to start off part-time and learn the job.
There was an interesting one. I was speaking to a parent today who called me. She was working. She was actually at home because her child was sick.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And before she called me, she said, "Well, I just gotten through a sickness bout with my child and put her to sleep. So that's why I'm calling you right now. I've got to call you right now." And
Yeah,
she was at work, right? So clearly, you do the best you can in those scenarios.
yeah, exactly. And this is like things are changing because at one time it was the guys who went to work, and we didn't have the women in the workforce. So the guys just went to work, and we didn't worry about things like maternity leave and looking after kids and so forth, because there was always somebody at home to look after kids. And that what happened is women entered the workforce, and then it came time where women wanted to remain in the workforce and then take on more senior positions.
Yeah.
So then we start looking at things that say that there's barriers to that. Not only barriers in terms of discrimination against women, like getting into top jobs and stuff, but there's issues like around childcare, around caregiving roles, even parents, looking after parents and other family members that generally is left to women. Hey, I'm not saying men are left out of that. Men sometimes end up in these positions too, and I think that that's very important to see that it's not something that's just restricted to women. So even if you have a fellow, like I've had a fellow who had to have adjustments to his hours because he had mental health issues, and he had to have his hours adjusted. And going through that with the employer is like asking for the moon.
That has that has parallels, of course, even though it's a different issue,
Yeah,
because that has parallels and duty to accommodate in with any description and how you apply the question duties about protection against discrimination.
like the whole
Very
shop would fall apart if this guy didn't show up 5 minutes earlier. Like they were
yeah.
acting like that. Like it's one thing that you have to really look at. In terms of a context of, yes, you're running a business, but there's many things that people do to accommodate people and to ensure that that person can do the best for you that they can.
Well, was one place I was working at. I was the key holder.
Hmm. And you still are.
Actually, the one thing is about this is that whilst I may be a key holder here, I'm not the only one. Other people can get into the office without keys, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I win and determines who gets them.
Yeah. And the other question is sometimes as the key holder, um, you have to have a very if you're not going to be showing up at 7 o'clock in the morning because something has gone wrong, there has to be a substitute key holder who not necessarily can get there at 7 in the morning, but can get there at quarter past or half past or something like that.
Yeah, who can open up.
Yeah,
Right? Like, say,
exactly.
for instance, if I'm the one who opens up the store and I'm the only one who has access to the back or whatever to get into the building, and then I'm not able to do it. So I call on usually somebody else who's a senior staff person that they could do it. Right?
Yeah.
And then they're
And
given a key for the next day.
And the other question about that could also be, ironically, and I talked about it in the context of the person who's got a family emergency, but also that could be in the scene in the same context as that. Hey, I'm the key holder. I'm the duty key holder, but I got called into the office at 2 in the morning because the alarm went off. All right.
Hmm.
Now I'm fast asleep because I was up till 4 in the morning because the alarm went off. So now I'm home in my bed, having alarmed the place and gone home.
Hmm.
Right.
Yep,
Um,
that's another situation too that could happen depending
equally,
on the person. Even though I would just say, "Oh God, here again."
well, it's equally valid, but the thing is, it's an important situation, and the employer has to kind of approach these things on a day-to-day basis. What's deal with the problem at hand. Don't be firing anybody because of it.
Yeah, they have to be reasonable about it, figure out what's going on,
Yeah.
what could be done, okay, and how do we handle it the next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So because what happens is, like, in my own opinion, fireable offenses, okay, are things like if someone's stealing from you, or they try to take over your place, or to rob you or something,
yeah.
or try to get into your computer systems and breach your confidentiality, or steal your data, things like that. That's fireable offenses. But other things, something like you just raised there, it's not fireable. It's just you inconvenience somebody, but it's not fireable.
Yeah. 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 And okay. So then we look onto some other areas which were there's potentially big problems. Pregnancy and parental.
Yep. Pregnancy leave. Yes. Woman becomes pregnant, and then they need to tell their employer exactly when they want to take their pregnancy leave, when they want to start it. And then if the employer noted that the woman's pregnant, especially if they show up at work and then she looks pregnant, or she starts sharing news around the office that she's pregnant, okay, without asking for a pregnancy leave, and then the boss decides that her position becomes surplus all of a sudden, okay, that becomes very much of a human rights code issue too.
Well, I was going to say because you're picking your time on that, and obviously there's a fixed amount of pregnancy leave, and particularly if you're a woman that may be prone to have had miscarriages or something, so you don't get the miscarriage until you're on your 23rd week or something like that. So whilst it might become known to your friend that you become pregnant, for example, that particular woman probably is not going to be saying to her boss, I need to plan my pregnancy leave until she gets to the 24th or 25th week.
Yeah, she doesn't
Because
have
you're
like
sure.
to decide that. Okay, after a certain period of time, they can say, "Look, I need to take my pregnancy leave," and they have to give some notice to the
Yeah.
boss that they're taking that leave, so the boss would have time to replace the person.
And again, in that example, the reason you wouldn't tell until a particular time is
Hmm.
because you've already had ends of pregnancies, unexpected ends of
Yeah,
pregnancies.
exactly. Like you don't want to have that and say that, "Oh, I want pregnant again," and everything else, and everybody's doing this, and then tell your boss you need to go on pregnancy leave, and then the next day you miscarry.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah,
That wouldn't be very good.
that wouldn't be very nice, and obviously you get a lot of sympathy, but you wouldn't necessarily get sympathy from the boss.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where you have to be really careful. So a woman does that,
Yeah,
including when a woman completes her maternity leave and comes back and returns to work. Okay, so you would know when she's returning to work. She would give notice that I am going to be returning to work, and she needs to be offered either get her job back or a comparable position.
yeah.
Right.
And
So you can't just go in there and say, "Oh, we don't got a job for you anymore." Can't do that.
so here's another question. So, if, for example, so you took a temporary position, fulfilling the role of a person who is away on pregnancy leave,
Mhm.
right? Now, after a certain period of time, that particular individual comes back, but as your boss, I'm going, well, Angela does much better work than Joanne does. I want Angela to stay.
Mhm.
But but I'm duty bound to take Joanne back,
Absolutely. Right?
right?
You have to
Um,
put her in a comparable position, even if it's not that position.
yeah,
You can have Angela continue that position and then put Joanne back into that other position,
but what you
in a
couldn't
comparable
do,
position.
yeah, but what you couldn't do is if Joanne was actually an accounts manager, let's say, I couldn't put her in as a receptionist.
No, no. It has to be a comparable position. So, in other words, if it's at a middle management type of level, Hey, she comes back and does something else on a middle management level, hey, involving some kind of sales or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it depends on what the person's job was, and they come back. And sometimes it happens, but the person who's taken the place, they get a contract, a maternity leave contract to fulfill during that time, where they know that that job will come to an end at a certain point. But it can continue at the option of the employer, eh, depending on resources. For example, like say if the employer is getting particularly busy and needs both people,
Well,
it happens.
yeah.
I had to do that.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Okay. And I said, no, the one coming back on pregnancy leave, she's coming back and you're staying too.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that happens a lot, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, what is not permissible is to say, "Hey, Angela, I like the work you're doing. You're staying, but Joanna's gone."
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, because she'll go in a nice big discrimination suit.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to something else: critical illness and caregiver leave. So this is time off taken to care for family members with significant health risks. Not always children. This could be parents as well.
Yeah, sometimes it could be your parent or it could be your spouse
Yeah.
or some other significant family member that you are working with. Okay. And this is where you have to show. Like I've had a case where there was a woman who was caring for her brother and he was very sick.
Mm.
And she was the only family member alive, okay, that can work with him and do that. So this was also allowed. You can put a case forward on that, you know, and then people who are looking after someone who have, you're looking after, there's a caregiver leave that you can get in the province, which is job
Yeah.
protected leave. And then you can also apply for EI benefits for a caregiver period.
Yeah. There's another question that I want to do. There's a thing called family responsibility leave. I don't know too much about that. I believe you can get is it up to 10 days of leave, often unpaid, though it does that guarantee a job?
Uh, Having the family responsibility leave, if you got that and you get the 10 days a year, hey, that's where you go home because the child's sick.
Hmm.
Okay, because your child can't go to daycare because he's sick, and they usually don't allow sick kids in daycare.
That's their
Well,
design.
spread the measles around.
That's designed for when your child is of school age, let's say, and they can't go to daycare
or if they can't go to school
yeah.
and say they're 8 or 9 years old, they can't go to school, but this but they're too young to be left on their own to look after themselves.
Okay. We were talking about this duty to accommodate earlier on, and all of these things that we've really talked about have been duty to accommodate. One of the questions about duty to accommodate is been that you have a duty to accommodate up to undue hardship. So let's talk
Absolutely.
about undue hardship for a moment, because there are clearly limits,
Yeah.
and um, and obviously that's going to depend upon where you are. I'm a ma and pup store, and you are my full-time worker. Clearly, whilst I have a duty to accommodate when something like this occurs, there's going to be different limits for me as a ma and pup store than for an organization that may be a international global corporation.
Yeah, definitely, because it like the size of employer is important. It's considered, okay, and also the types of functions that are there, and if that person was removed for their function, what happens to the business? Okay, and is that person easily replaceable?
Yeah.
Okay, because if I can get somebody else to do temp work while that other person is not there, I have some way to accommodate them. But if I can't, like say I need a senior rocket scientist in my firm, okay, and I have a senior rocket scientist, but that rocket scientist happens to develop a critical illness. Okay, I have to do something, and it would be difficult to find another person like that, but I'll have to make do in some way. But in terms of hardship, it's usually to do with funding, health and safety, and also the status of business operations.
But again, in that scenario that you've just painted, it has occurred to me that, hey, if the rocket scientist takes time off for critical illness or caregiver time, then the mission to Mars or the mission to Jupiter's delayed.
Yeah, that could happen, but there's usually a few other rocket scientists. I do have a cousin who's a rocket scientist, but believe it or not,
Figured you might somehow.
yeah. I always teased. I used to tease him before when he got his PhD in physics.
So what are you going to do? So your joke was, what are you going to do with that? Let me guess. Be a rocket scientist.
Yeah, that's what I did.
That's
Either a
my
space scientist or a rocket scientist of some sort. And he talked about space all the time.
and of course,
But it's amazing, how a lot of these things happen. Hey, but I haven't seen him in a long time. He's probably retired now.
but let's be honest. Whilst he talked about space a lot, he was never spaced out.
Yeah, he worked for the Department of Defense actually, not space. But that was interesting though. But the thing is, when you're trying to accommodate, it depends on the types of person's role, what they have to do. Like in this office, we try to accommodate the best we can. Like if somebody's sick and they can't do a particular case, hey, and they're really sick, like say if they end up in the hospital or something, hey, this is why we have a team behind us, and we try to get somebody else who could either handle their case or we could get a deferral, hey.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what we try to do. So that person doesn't have to sit there and worry about losing a case or whatever, or losing a client. So these things we try to take care of.
Okay. There's, of course, a big issue in relation to human rights and family status.
Yep.
Right. So it occurs to me that obviously family status is one of the protected grounds in the Human Rights Code. But often it seems that, we'll get rid of the certain people first, like mothers and the like.
Oh yeah, there's a tendency to do this, or last hired, first fired. Especially if you're looking at a program where you brought some people on who might be part of a protected group. So there's a lot of different things that some employers do that could sort of give away the store there, what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And the point being is that what you've got to do as an employer is not fall down those traps. Right.
And it's helpful to learn simple accommodation and to work with. There's lots of information online about how to do accommodation. And if you're a large enough employer, you could ask your human resources department to set up policies around human rights and how to accommodate. Because human resources people are trained in disability and other types of accommodations and how to deal with certain situations.
I do know that the Ontario Human Rights Commission has a website actually about employment discrimination based upon family status, and they also have some brochures available for employers.
Yeah,
right?
And then people can read that so that they can understand how to treat situations when someone is pregnant, when they're out on maternity leave, what they have to do when someone comes back, and various things, what they have to do, and what a comparable occupation is. Okay? Like you're not going to get a senior accountant to put them back to become answering the phones.
Thing. So And again, all of that kind of stuff that's why they've got the human rights code in there in the first place.
Yeah, because it's what your employment status should be. Because what happens is a lot of the employees, when they join a company, they're in a vulnerable situation because they're selling their labor in exchange for money, and it's not easy to find another job, okay, for some people particularly. And it's usually the people that are vulnerable to this type of discrimination that will have the most difficulty.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, the other question about this is, of course, you fire somebody like a mother or father. Um, it's much more desperate for those people than it is for us. Getting rid of any employee is always desperate for that employee because suddenly they've got to face the loss of income. But it's even more acute when it comes to a parent.
Yeah, especially a single parent.
Yeah.
Okay? And you start doing that type of thing, and it doesn't look good. Okay? I've had single parents work for me, and one of the things I was very careful with is to make sure they had as much hours as I can give them, and that I kind of worked around them, so that they could do the job, get paid, okay? And they have always offered generous leave in terms of sick, if you're sick or if you have to go look after your child sick at home. I did not want to say you're only limited to 5 days. I can't say that. And the other thing too is sick notes. I never. One of the things I was never a fan of is sick notes. Like a person gets the flu and they're throwing up all over the place, and you're asking them to go to the doctor so that they can get a sick note to bring into you. So they'll go to the waiting room and they make everybody else sick.
Yeah. I've always thought that's the dumbest thing on the planet. But
Yeah, exactly.
thank goodness that Doug Ford made a sensible decision last year and said they weren't
Exactly.
going to require.
Or sick notes for these
Yeah.
short day absences type of thing.
Yeah.
The only time I would request one is, say, for instance, if
Oh,
somebody's out on a short-term or a long-term disability leave and they want to come back to work, I would require something from their doctor,
but
and,
again,
and if any accommodations are required.
in that scenario where a person's out on the longer term disability type leave, there's been notifications going on, so there's been a period of notification. You realize there's a realization that that person's got whatever they got, and there's a realization that it is long term, medium term, short term. There's a You've gotten doctor notes and you've gotten doctor information, or you've gotten union situations to cover those kind of things, so that when those scenarios are coming to an end, it's through a whole process of
A process of
a
accommodation.
whole process.
And the only other
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
I would do this is if a person is chronically ill only on Mondays and Fridays. Okay, for example,
Yeah.
that they seem to get sick on Fridays and Mondays for some reason.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's Friday. I'm going home.
Yeah, that kind of thing, because
Yeah.
then that looks a little suspicious. Okay. But most of the time when I've had the policy, nobody abused it,
Yeah.
because people will say, I have the policy, this just go home. I'd rather have you home to rest so you can come back and do better, than to give it to everybody else, and that sort of thing.
Okay, so one of the things that is, of course, covered with anything to do with employment is the Employment Standards Act governs the vast majority of what we deal with employment here in Ontario.
Yeah, statutory. Okay, this is not common law. Two different things.
Yeah. Yeah, but there is an impact
Common law deals
upon,
with the contract,
yeah.
and employment standards deals with the policies and the
Yeah,
minimums, your
what
floor.
I'm saying here is that much of our human rights has an impact upon employment standards has an
Yeah,
impact upon
you
human
can
rights.
even go in there and you can use human rights arguments if you're going to the labor board. Hey, say if you were dismissed because you were pregnant and you felt this as a form of reprisal, you could go to the labor board on that basis. I've done it before, and the person that I represented got quite a bit of money, and the employer didn't like it. And I think they were trying to appeal it. They didn't, but to appeal it, you have to put that amount of money in trust with the labor board, which I think can be problematic for smaller employers.
It would not help a small employer, would it?
Yeah, I think there has to be some discretion there.
Yeah,
because a smaller employer has a right to fight back too.
Yeah, whereas a mum and pup store would probably have the greatest deal of difficulty putting that amount of money into a trust. Whereas
entitlements, because this is the problem, severance entitlements, whether it's ESA or whether it's common law, they don't care what size of employer you are.
Yeah. All right. So anything else we need to cover about parental rights?
Well, this is very important, and also too, parental rights is your family status. It's very important for many people, and as kids get older, like sometimes they're teenagers and so forth, and that can also bring some issues too. What if your child is in trouble in school, bullying, and they got accused by something, or they've been suspended?
Well, they were bullied.
Yeah, or they were bullied. So you need to go down there to talk to the school to try to deal with the situation, get it cleaned up.
And it might only take half an hour. Maybe you've got a place you can put your child, like your parents or something like that. And it might only take half an hour. Hey, I can quickly get from my workplace to the school that the kid's at in 10 minutes. 10 minutes, another 10 minutes to discuss the situation with the headmaster, and 10 minutes to take them to grandma's.
Take them to grandma's and tell them out of work.
Yeah.
And then I can take the child home and says, okay, let's figure this out. What's next steps?
But again, you can be, from a work perspective, you could be back at work in, let's say, 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of that kind of things. And these things you need to understand, because it's going to happen, for anybody who's a parent that you employ. Yeah. Some people were very lucky, like I was always self-employed, so I basically had control over my workplace. But what if you're not? Like, you're working for someone else, but your employer has to respect that these things do happen.
Yeah. That's actually my situation as well. Most of my life I've been self-employed. Yeah. So it's like, well, I'm going to sue my employer. Oh, thank you for the lawsuit myself.
Yeah. Then you have to defend it.
Yeah. So I'm going to defend it. Bollocks to you.
Taking you to court.
Yeah. We've got to have a bit of fun with that. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm hoping that's given everybody a nice view there about what's going on in the employment world. And thank you for being with us. And so if you need to contact us, you can do so. Contact Invictus Legal LLP at 905-688-5598. Email Angela through angela@weareinvictus.legal, or myself through peter@weareinvictus.legal. And our website, as ever, is weareinvictus.legal. And then, of course, we've got to think about.
Yeah, and then what you heard today on Spin Legal, whether it's this show or others in our 104-part series, this is not legal advice. So if you need legal advice, then please contact a paralegal or a lawyer. Okay? Like, we'd like you to come to Invictus Legal and talk to us about your situation. Okay? But if you already know somebody, just contact somebody. Okay? Whatever you're hearing. And don't even go to Facebook University, because that doesn't work either. Okay? But see a lawyer or a paralegal.
And yeah, exactly. Facebook University gives you bad answers, and also AI University doesn't always work either.
Yeah, Chat GPT is not allowed to give legal advice anymore.
All medical advice come to that.
Yeah, and AI, I think, is going to have to be shut down in that medical or legal stuff
Well,
because people think, "Can you diagnose me?" You know.
Well, and the other thing about that is that whilst there are videos out for, you know, how do I connect this gadget to this thing, I can see that not being part of AI in the future as well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, because people are.
Especially when you're dealing with tradesmen or other highly professional, you know, tradesmen spent hundreds of, you know, a lot of time and effort going to school to get trained for that sort of stuff. So I can see AI not doing that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't want to take money out of the pockets of people like tradespeople and that. And we were talking about that on another forum I was talking to that, and I was watching that. And it was interesting because they're saying there's some things that are very simple that you can say, okay, I just want to learn how to replace my washer and my tap. Okay, fine. Okay? Like you don't want to call a plumber to come down and do a 5-minute job.
No.
Okay? You'd rather call a plumber if there's something a bit more extensive or you need something replaced or something.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is we've been living for years on YouTube videos about how to do this, that, and the other.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Well, see you, everybody, and have a great week. And come and watch any of the other 103 episodes here on YouTube.
Yep. And subscribe. And subscribe.
Subscribe. Yep, exactly. So
because if you subscribe, the more we subscribe, the more better programs we can eventually put on. Yeah. And then and also if you want to share with us something you want us to talk about, go ahead and send us an email or send us a message or whatever you want to send us and tell us what you would like to see us.
Yep. All right. Well, and have a great weekend.